Hello, everyone. Welcome to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Emily, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Emily. Hi, everyone. Today, we're tackling a topic that so many of us struggle with, saying no. If you've ever felt overwhelmed because you couldn't say no, this episode is for you.
Exactly. We'll explore why saying no is so hard, share techniques to set boundaries, and give real-life examples of situations where saying no is actually empowering.
By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools to say no confidently, without guilt, and to prioritize your own well-being.
Grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's dive in. Mark, let's start with the big question. Why do you think people find it so hard to say no?
Good question. I think a lot of it comes down to fear of rejection. People worry that saying no will make others think less of them or damage their relationships.
That's true. And then there's the desire to please. Many of us want to be helpful, reliable, or liked, so we say yes even when it's not in our best interest.
Don't forget about guilt. A lot of people feel guilty if they turn someone down, especially if it's a close friend, family member, or colleague.
Absolutely. But here's the irony. When we say yes to things we don't want to do, we often feel resentful or overwhelmed, which hurts our relationships in the long run.
So true. Saying yes to everyone else means saying no to yourself, and that's not sustainable.
Right? And that's why learning to say no isn't just about setting boundaries. It's about prioritizing your own well-being.
Now that we know why it's hard to say no, let's talk about how to do it effectively. Emily, what's your top tip for setting boundaries?
Start with clarity. Before you say no, be clear about your priorities. If you know what matters most to you, it's easier to turn down things that don't align.
Great point. And I'd add, use assertive communication. That means being direct and respectful. You don't need to over-explain or apologize excessively. A simple, I can't commit to that right now, is often enough.
I love that. Another tip is to practice saying no in low-stakes situations. For example, if a store clerk offers you something you don't want, like an extra product, say no politely. It's good practice for bigger moments.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the power of delayed responses. If you're caught off guard, it's okay to say, let me think about it and get back to you. This gives you time to decide without feeling pressured.
Yes, and one more. Use a yes sandwich. Start with something positive, say no, and then end with something kind. For example, thank you for thinking of me, but I can't take this on right now. I hope it goes well.
That's a great one. It softens the no and keeps the relationship intact.
Let's bring this to life with some examples. Mark, what's a situation where saying no can be empowering?
Okay, here's one. A colleague asks you to take on extra work when your plate is already full. Instead of saying yes and stressing out, you could say,
Hey, can you help me finish this project? The deadline's coming up.
I'd love to help, but I'm at capacity with my current tasks. Maybe we can ask the team for additional support?
Perfect. You're being honest about your workload while offering a constructive solution. Here's another one. A friend invites you to an event you're not interested in attending.
Hey, do you want to come to the party on Friday night?
Thanks for inviting me, but I need some downtime this weekend. Let's catch up another time.
Nice. You're declining politely, but leaving the door open for future plans. How about one more? Let's say a family member asks for a favor that doesn't align with your priorities.
Can you babysit this Saturday?
I wish I could, but I've already made other plans. Let me know if there's another time I can help.
These examples show that saying no doesn't have to feel harsh or negative. It's about being honest and kind.
Emily, let's talk about guilt. How do you deal with that feeling when you say no?
Guilt is tough, but I remind myself that saying no to one thing means I'm saying yes to something that matters more, whether that's my health, my family, or my goals.
That's such a good mindset. For me, it helps to reframe guilt as self-care. If I'm constantly overcommitted, I can't show up fully for the people I care about.
Exactly. And confidence comes with practice. The more you say no and see that the world doesn't end, the easier it gets.
Right. And let's not forget, people who respect you will respect your boundaries. If someone reacts badly to your no, that says more about them than it does about you.
Absolutely. And every time you set a boundary, you're teaching others how to treat you, and teaching yourself to value your time and energy. Before we wrap up, Let's go over some key vocabulary from today's episode.
Boundaries. Limits that define what you are and aren't comfortable with. Example. Setting boundaries helps protect your time and energy.
Assertiveness, communicating your needs clearly and confidently. Example. Assertiveness is key to saying no without guilt.
Overwhelm. A feeling of being emotionally or mentally overloaded. Example. Saying yes to too many things can lead to overwhelm.
Priorities, the things that are most important to you. Example. Knowing your priorities makes it easier to set boundaries.
These words are not just helpful for this topic, they're great for improving your overall English communication skills.
Exactly. Practice using them in your own sentences to make them stick. To recap, we've talked about why people struggle to say no, shared techniques to set boundaries, and explored real-life examples where saying no can be empowering.
We also discussed overcoming guilt and using assertive communication to prioritize your well-being without feeling bad.
Remember, saying no isn't selfish, it's necessary for a balanced, healthy life. You can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right. Start small, practice often, and trust that setting boundaries will lead to stronger relationships and less stress.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe to the English Learning Podcast for more tips and strategies.
Until next time, take care and keep learning.